Good morning and welcome to Visionary Aging. I am Mary Winters. I am a gerontologist and the owner of About Senior Solutions. And we plan weddings, we plan retirements, we plan vacations. Let's plan to have the most powerful, wonderful life at any time, especially as we're aging and getting older. Today we have a great show. We have a wonderful caregiver question from Stephen McCullough. I have a fantastic expert, Stan Isreal from the insurance industry. And specifically, he is a long-term care insurance specialist, but he has written the book. So we're going to get some really great information from him today. And we'll see what Melinda Hughes has to talk about and why our muscles are so important to not just help our body stand up, but protect our bodies in addition to that too. So let's go ahead and we'll bring on Stephen McCullough. And, you know what? I should do this little intro first. There we go. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I still need to find that shirt. One of these days, I'm going to find that shirt.
What shirt?
The shirt that the lady's wearing in the intro you play for me.
Oh, okay. There you go. Oh, you have one. I didn't realize that. Okay. So what's our caregiver question today?
So our caregiver question today comes from a lady. She says that her two children are arguing, discussing, heavily debating the long-term care of her and her husband. And she wants to know how to help the kids resolve some issues. Like one kid wants to go in one direction, another kid wants to go in a different direction. And the mom and the dad are not getting put in between the two kids. And so how do they resolve that? It's a tough one.
It is a tough one, except for it's their life. I'm going to just pull up this little thing. I didn't know that this was exactly the question you were going to ask, but this is really important to me because when we put a care plan together, we look at what somebody's wishes are, what they can afford, and what's going to keep them safe. And that has to be about them as the couple and not about the kids. So when I get these sometimes wonderful, well-intended children, adult children, and sometimes horrible, horrific, spoiled, unlaunched children who decide what they think their parents should do, I want to make sure that their voice is heard. So it's not to say that the adult child isn't concerned or has the need to kind of pitch in as far as maybe what's really realistic about what's happening with their parent or not, but we still need to hear their voice. We still need to know what's going on with them. We still need to know what's going to keep them safe, what they want, and what they can afford. And if we could put that together as a family collaborative, great. If they can't make a sound decision and stay safe, mom and dad, then obviously we need input from adult children. But it's their life, and I want to make sure that they have input in that. And the other thing about planning and the idea of visionary aging is if you put some of these things in, not just in concept together, but you put a plan together in advance, you have more choices. You are more empowered. So I strongly urge you to get together with your experts, your attorney, your CPA, your financial planner, your long-term insurance guy, and your care manager, and make sure that you're able to develop that plan that you want for the rest of your life. So there you go. That's my soapbox. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and include Stan. I'll get rid of this little guy. And I'm going to bring Stan up with us. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a great show.
Thanks. And let me go ahead and we'll bring Stan in. He really wrote the book on long-term care, and I want to make sure that you get the best information on long-term care insurance. I have my policy because I think it's that important. And Stan Isreal,
good morning.
Welcome. Mary. Yeah. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And I understand you're a veteran. We're coming close to Veterans Day, and you have an interesting background in finance before you became an insurance guy, which you've done for a very long time. Sounds like you've kind of written the book on insurance. Am I right?
Well, I've been an insurance agent for 37 years. I started when I was really young.
Of course.
Yeah. Got into long-term care insurance 28 years ago when it first really became popular. I've seen many changes over the years. And over the last few years, it's become so important that we actually have November as Long-Term Care Awareness Month.
I did not know that. That's an accident that we had you on for November.
And it's very important because statistically, 56% of Americans are aware of long-term care, but only 30% have actually planned for their care. And my issue is that I receive calls almost daily from people who say, I'm interested, but it's too late because they've waited too long. We have an expression that your health pays for it. Money buys it, but your health pays for it. And the cost of care has risen substantially. When I first started many years ago, the average cost of care was like $100 a day. It's now over $300 a day. And if you live in certain pockets, for instance, if you're in San Francisco or San Diego or Irvine, the cost of care is substantially more than that. But long-term, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Really? Well, I know it's a lot more up in Northern California than it is in Southern California, but I was not aware that these small pockets in California are a lot higher. So that's interesting news. I'm going to have to do a little more digging on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I can send you that information.
Sure.
The important part of long-term care insurance is not that you're buying a period of time for care. What you're really doing is you're buying a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
The pool, it's called a pool of money. It's made up of a couple of things, but the most important part of long-term care insurance, it's not nursing home insurance. And unfortunately, when it first started, long-term care insurance was designed as a supplement, as Part B under Medicare, to fill that gap. Now it's really at-home care. 80% of the people who are currently on claim are actually receiving it at home, not in a facility.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the family too. I talked a little bit before with my little diagram that I had, and I think it also matters that somebody wants to stay home, so we want to keep them home, and then a policy helps them. Share a little bit about how to choose a policy, because if you want to stay home, it's going to cost a lot more, especially in California right now, than if you went to a community. So what are you advising people in that area?
I am a firm believer it's better to have something than nothing at all.
It's true.
And my suggestion to a client is let's start off with a basic plan. Now, with an average cost of $300 a day, what I have suggested to a client is how much of that $300 can you afford, and how much of it do you want to shift to the responsibility of the insurance company? The second feature that goes into designing a plan, Mary, is the length of time that a policy could be enforced, being actually paid for. And I generally start with a 3-year policy because the average length of claim is about 3.8 years.
Yeah.
That gives them a comfort level of saying, this is what I can afford, this is the minimum, but I want something bigger. I want something more. Dementia runs in the family. Do I get more coverage? We also have a look-back period as applies for Medi-Cal, where if you are on claim and you're paying for it yourself, you have to spend down to qualify for Medi-Cal. Many facilities, for instance, don't take, or assisted living facilities do not take Medi-Cal.
Most of them don't, unless they're the ALW program. So, and
Right.
that's far and few between,
Right.
and hard to get into too.
Yes. And also home care is important. But if you're on Medi-Cal, you're going to have to hire your own people through the in-home supportive services program, which I know you're familiar with.
Yes.
So my goal here is to have them at least have a little bit of something rather than nothing at all. The other issue that we have is that they should have inflation. When I first got started many years ago, people would saying, I have a long-term care policy, but it didn't include inflation. You've got to project. If you're 55 years old today, you're not going on claim tomorrow. It's going to be 30 years down the road. So you want to make sure that your policy keeps up with the cost of living.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, look at what care is costing now. It used to be, so pre-2017, and we've had increase in minimum wage and so forth, but pre-2015, we could spend about $5,600 a month for a client, just because the way the care was able to be set up. Now it has to be 24/7, no overtime, or you can pay overtime, but it's that much more. Now it is closer to $25,000 a month, and it's going up because minimum wage is going up too. So it's a huge difference. We're talking about something that was like way less than half. So now you're looking at over $200,000 a year to cover your care.
Yeah, and it's going to get more expensive. We are, for those of you who are in Washington, the state of Washington, they have a program that they just implemented called Washington Cares. And some of the holes in their program, the state of California is also looking into the same program, but hopefully we overcome some of the holes that they put into the program. For instance, their program is a maximum benefit of $36,000, $36,500. It's once in a lifetime. And we don't know what the cost of care is. The other issue that they have is that all employees in the state of Washington are going to be paying a tax. But if you live or receive benefits outside of Washington, you're not going to get those benefits, even though you paid into it.
It's kind of interesting too, because the state, if you're paying into it, obviously you want to stay there. I'm sure the state would prefer that you probably leave and then you don't have the benefit of using your long-term care in that. And that's very interesting. They have some interesting look back periods too, much longer than we do in California.
Correct. We've never adapted the two laws that have been in effect on the look back period as it applies to Medi-Cal or Medicaid as we know it.
So those who are not familiar with long-term care insurance, can you share a little bit about how that works when somebody actually needs it? We talked a little bit about how you may select a product or an insurance item, and maybe how it's actually utilized.
Sure. The eligibility for receiving benefits, to receive benefits under a long-term care policy, you must be deficient in 2 activities of daily living. And I'm going to have you go through it as you woke up this morning. Last night while you were sleeping, you controlled your bowels and your bladder. That's called continence. So the first thing that you did was you put your feet on the floor. You transferred, or getting off a couch, or whatever means you're standing up. The third trigger is toileting, which means not only doing the necessary cleaning, but it's also the necessary getting to the toilet or back and forth. Fourth one is dressing. And fortunately, we have Velcro, but arthritis is a very important trigger of eligibility.
Oh, okay.
People can't put on hooks and clasps, and as we get older, we need that.
The dexterity.
Bathing, getting in and out of the tub, doing the hygiene that goes along with it, and eating. Now, if you cannot perform 2 of those 6, you're eligible to receive benefits, or if you've got a cognitive impairment.
Okay, and I've done that. I've worked through some of those issues to get on to policies for clients that we have, whether that's organizing the physician to deduce whether somebody has a cognitive loss, specifically dementia, or what do they look at it as mild cognitive, not mild cognitive impairment? Does that count? Or
Yes.
it does? Okay.
Dementia, senility, Alzheimer's disease, they all are encompassed under cognitive impairment.
Great. Okay.
I also want to say that it's not just helping you with the activities of daily living. There's also what we call instrumental activities of daily living. Medication management. It's so important.
Huge.
Many seniors who are cut back on their pills, or they forget to take them at the right time. You've got, how are you going to eat? Well, you need to do shopping. Third thing is housekeeping, transportation. And I'm not talking about heavy housekeeping. I mean, light housekeeping. So the home is livable. So because you've triggered your benefits, you're also going to get assistance with these other 5 or 6 different things. Telephone management.
But that's because you have an issue with your ADLs, the previous list of items. And so then it kind of falls into getting that support, but you don't automatically get support for medication management.
No.
Okay. Just want to make that clear to our viewers. And tell me more about some of the benefits or how easy it is to get going on a policy for long-term care. And I think you stop paying too, right? Once you actually activate a policy?
Yes. Typically, we call it an elimination period, but it's a deductible. In other words, the first 90 days or 30 days or 0 days, the shorter the period of time that the elimination is, the higher the premium is going to be. Typically, the big thing that most people bring up is the fact that Medicare is going to pay for my stay. Medicare is going to pay for it. Medicare only pays for skilled nursing care. It doesn't have to be in a skilled facility. It can be at home, but Medicare only pays if you require skilled care. And even then, it's limited to 100 days.
Right.
For the first 20 days, they will pay all expenses. After that, for the next 80 days, Medicare will pay everything above. This year, it's about $185 a day. But if you require custodial care, which is help with your activities of daily living, Medicare does not pay. And it's interesting is that in an assisted live or in a nursing home, the average person is custodial care. Between 88 and 92% of the people there who are in a skilled nursing facility only require custodial care. They do not require skilled care, which means it's out of pocket.
Yeah, and that's why we have a huge flux of Medi-Cal patients living there because they just can't afford to be anywhere else and still get some level of support. We're talking to Stan Isreal of Stan Isreal Insurance. His number is scrolling there on the bottom. Stan, why don't you go ahead and give your phone number out so that way people need to get a hold of you and talk a little bit about their long-term care insurance policy or buying a long-term care insurance policy. You can help them out with that.
My phone number is 818, it's scrolling down, 706-1100. Even if you have an insurance policy, I think it's important that you review it periodically to make sure it's what you thought it was, to refresh. I think that's something that we bring to the table that other agents don't because we've been in the business very long. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
I had a client who moved to another state. And when she applied for claim, they said no, she was getting home services. And they said you have to go through a service. She was denied claim and benefits and a title of somewhere around $20,000. So she called me and I said, you have a California policy. California says if you are getting care at home, you can hire anybody that you wish as long as it's not a family member and they have a social security number. So she was actually hiring her next door neighbor and not getting reimbursed. The insurance company said, no, no, no. And I said, I gave them exactly what the law was. She got a check for 20 grand.
Oh, that's great. That's really nice to hear.
So it's knowing, it's not only the person who buys the policy, it's their loved ones who should know that if something happens, this is what your policy will cover.
I know, and it makes me a little bit crazy too, if that you haven't shared that with your family or your responsible party. If they don't know you have long-term care insurance, they may just neglect it altogether. Is there a way to find kind of a missing policy, so to speak, or how does somebody find something that they don't know if they have or not?
Well, if they have one, that means they're paying premiums.
That's right. That's right.
It's a good way to check, or you can go to the Department of Insurance.
Okay.
They can do some research for you, see if they can locate it. Now, at one time, there were over 100 companies selling long-term care insurance. Now,
not anymore.
No, not anymore. The companies that are in it now are in it for the long term.
And then one last question. How about if you had a surgery, you're down for quite a while, or maybe an accident and you're in recovery for a year? Is that something you can activate your policy on, or maybe it depends on the policy and then let it replenish or halt until you need it again later?
Okay. To trigger your benefits, you have to be deficient in the 2 out of 6 or cognitive impairment, but it's got to be for an extended period of time. Extended period of time in our notation is that in the doctor's opinion, you're going to need care for at least 90 days.
Okay.
You might have a 0-day elimination, which means the company's going to pay for it. But if the doctor doesn't certify that you need care, you're not going to get reimbursed from the company.
Okay.
When you buy long-term care insurance, you're buying a bucket of money. So let's say you have a $220,000 bucket of money, and you are on claim for a period of time. Let's say you've used up $50,000. You still have $170,000 for future usage. But because you've satisfied the elimination period, there is no second elimination period. It's once in a lifetime.
Okay, that sounds great. So how about 3 tips to leave us with regarding the importance of long-term care insurance?
Education, education, education.
Yeah.
And it is so important. I have been in homes where clients have got a stack of things. The internet is a great resource for learning about long-term care insurance. There are brochures out there that you can read at your disposal. My only other thing is get it while you're healthy. Don't wait for that accident and then call up. And what you deem not necessarily important, the insurance companies look at it a lot differently.
They do. And you may not qualify either. So I got it when I was young.
So did I.
All right. Thanks so much, Dan. And your phone number one more time.
818-706-1100.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you, Mary. I'm going to stay on. I'd like to hear more.
All right. And we're going to bring Melinda on here. So go ahead and feature her little video. Good. morning.
Good morning. Oh, that was really interesting.
Isn't it?
I learned a lot.
And Stan is a fitness guy by trade before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm glad he's going to stay on for this. He might have something to pitch in after we talk a little bit about how exercise is a form of long-term insurance.
There you go. It is.
Yeah, so specifically strength training for building muscle. And, muscle, most people, when they think of building muscle through strength training, are just thinking about getting stronger, being able to do things that they couldn't do before, which is obviously a big part of building muscle. But muscle functions on the body in a lot of different ways. So the first being, our ability to move our body and lift things. But the second, and I think really important function of muscle is protection of the body. So muscle acts as a cushion around our bones and joints. It protects our skeleton and internal organs from damage if there's impact to our body. And this becomes more important as we age because our balance is affected as we age, and balance is a combination of our muscle strength and the flexibility of our muscles, tendons, and ligaments. So as we age, and that natural part of that aging process is to lose muscle, lose bone density, and lose the flexibility of our muscles, tendons, and ligaments. As that process occurs, our balance is affected. We're more likely to fall. And that impact, then if there's not that muscle cushioning the skeleton and the internal organs, that's when our bones take some of the impact, or our internal organs take some of the impact. And if our bones are weak and brittle because of the aging process, then, that's kind of like the perfect recipe for disaster, and we can avoid that. So we can avoid that by keeping our muscles very strong so that our balance is, that we keep adequate balance as we age. And then we're keeping that protection, that cushion of muscle around our skeleton, stabilizing our skeleton, stabilizing the joints, but also absorbing impact if anything is to hit our body, if we're to fall or even have a collision with something. That muscle will protect the skeleton. So it's super important. And if we think of that as, every time you go to the strength shop for your workout or wherever you're working out, that's a form of long-term insurance, because you're, kind of putting something into the pot for the future. But yeah.
Excellent. Well, I know I have a little reverberation or echo in my voice. I'm not sure why. But no, it's not you.
Do you hear that with me?
No, it's me.
Okay.
So I'm not sure why that's happening, but I don't want it to bug everybody else. So I think I'm going to let you talk, and we're going to bring Steve back on.
Okay.
We'll just finish up our day.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Melinda. How are you?
Good.
So now
I have an example. I don't know if I told you all this, but of how muscle protects the body. So at the strength shop, we have a little sandwich board that goes out on Lake Avenue. And I was carrying my sandwich board out onto Lake Avenue, and there was a motorized scooter, and they go up to like 18 miles per hour. But he was whipping down the sidewalk, and they're not supposed to be on the sidewalk. They're supposed to be on the bike path. And he collided with me. I didn't even see him because I'm stepping out of the doorway, not expecting there to be any type of motorized anything on the sidewalk. And he collided into me because he didn't expect me to come out of the door. I flew through the air, landed on the side that he collided with, and was in quite a bit of shock. But I walked away with a massive bruise and 0 injuries. And, if I were not in the physical condition that I'm in, or if I were older and not in the physical condition that I'm in, that could have been a really significant injury, and so it really is indicative of how just having that extra muscle on your body, or just having those strong bones, can help you walk away from something that happens in a split second. And that's what we want. That's the long-term insurance of building strong muscles and strong bones.
It's like our Kevlar coat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we can work it out or not.
Did the person stop?
Yes, he did. And interestingly enough, like I flew and I was screaming. I didn't even realize I was screaming. And when I stopped screaming, I stood up, and then he because he was a little panicked that I was seriously injured, and he sprained his ankle. I think he had to go to the emergency room. But I was very lucky. No injury to the knee joint. And part of that is just having strong muscles and strong bones.
So he hit you. You walked away. And he went to emergency.
Yeah.
Here's our legal guy talking about city kind of incidents.
Yeah, you're not allowed to ride those things on the sidewalk.
No, they can be dangerous. If people
I couldn't walk for a few days because my muscle, the thigh muscle, I was hitting the thigh. My thigh muscle was damaged. So I couldn't walk for a few days, and I certainly couldn't get on and, up and down off the floor. I talk a lot about with our clients, and I've talked about, with you guys about how important it is to be able to use our muscles, our leg muscles, to get up and off the floor. And I couldn't do that with that injury. So I was kind of, having that experience of what some people have, when they come into the strength shop. And then as my muscle tissue repaired itself, because that's the beautiful thing about muscle, it repairs itself. I regained my strength in that thigh, but it did take like almost a week for me to totally recover from it. But I recovered from it just with a little bit of ice and rest. So
that's great.
That's great.
Right.
Well, I think we should wrap it up and just let everybody know to have a great weekend. I'm getting my voice back out, so I know everybody else can too.
We have to do National Day.
Oh, what's National Day?
Well, it is National Love Your Red Hair Day.
What?
Yes. True
Did
story.
I hear what you just said?
And it's also National Donut Day.
Oh, that's the best combination of days.
Right? So if you have red hair and you like donuts, it is your day.
It really is.
Oh, it is your day. It's Melinda Day. It's not any other day. That's great. Well, my friends, you have a fantastic weekend, and until next week.
All right.
Great show.
Thanks.